Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there nation, welcome to the show. We help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and now it's time for another edition of Age of the Realms. This is our series of Warhammer Age of Sigmar battle reports. This is Age of the Realms battle report number 26. It is a 2,000 point battle that is fought between myself with my esoteric Order of the Thousand Suns, which is my disciples of Tzeentch army, versus my buddy Fresh Prince Belair of his house Laenel, the silvery host of Calador. So we're throwing it down at 2,000 points, seeing exactly how it stacks up when Tzeentch Arcanites go up against the classic might of the High Elves. I'm going to put on some background music for you guys. If you want to take a look at each of our lists, feel free to pause and take a look at your own leisure. Until then, let's get it on. Alright folks, that takes us directly to the deployment phase. As you can see, we're fighting on a 4x6 table at 2,000 points. I am deployed on the near side of the board, and my opponent's deployed on the far side of the board. As you can see, we pretty much just took up a normal battle lines formation. We're just kind of lined up right across from each other. Pretty much in his center, he's got a lot of infantry with his cavalry in the flanks on the left-hand side, and both doors on the right-hand side to cover his right-hand flank. At the same time, in my battle lines, most of my infantry is located right in the solid in the center, with my warriors, the Chaos with halberds. Right behind them, I also got my general as well as my Magister as well as my Chaos Familiar. Making up my right hand flank, I got my Zangor unit as well as my Tzeentch, my Zangor Shaman. And right next to the right hand side, I also got my Lord of Change right behind the series of rocks. This is why you didn't get shot off the board. On the left hand side there, I have my Second Sons, which is my unit of 5 Chaos Knights looking on the far left, and then right next to them on the right hand side is my Shadow Rider Innistrad. And so pretty much the battle plan is to move forward with my infantry, try to engage his infantry in close combat as well, at the same time flanking the left hand side with my Chaos Knights, as well as using my my Vortex Mutilate Vortex Beast in order to kind of engage his units that way and cause some waves of madness at the same time. And at the same time, on the right hand side, my plan is to move my Lord of Change and kind of hopscotch across the entirety of the board, taking cover behind those bolt doors, and hopefully I can spam up some more Lords of Changes as well with summoning. And then of course using my general's ability to bring up his Unending Legion's ability, call up knights, units of knights as well as cavalry to start engaging on the flanks and maybe take out those bolt throwers. And that's pretty much what the plan is for this one. And here's a close-up of my Dice of Destiny. As you can see, I have 9d6 rolled up. I have 1 6, 2 5s, a 4, 2 3s, and 3 2s, which really helped me out a little bit with things like making my charges, make sure I get my casting rolls and that kind of thing. And so with Destiny Dice out of the way and deployment covered with, we go directly and roll off for initiative on turn number 1. Alright, so that takes the initiative at turn number 1, and Tzeentch Arcanites managed to score the win on that one. And this photo is taken directly after the hero phase. First of all, I use my general's Crown of Command ability, his Crown of Conquest ability, so that way he can issue out 2 commands. First thing I do is I deploy Inspiring Presence onto my unit of Stormlords, so that way I don't have to worry about taking a bravery test, because I have a sneaky suspicion that my opponents will be unloading all of his long-range firepower upon that unit. And during the magic phase, I also cast off Arcane Shielding, a mystical shield, onto my unit of Zangors. I use my Zangor Shaman Skexus of Dark Crystals in order to do that, so that way his unit gets +1 to their save as well, because the most common target that usually gets shot in this army are either my Chaos Warriors or my Zangors. And it makes sense because Zangors are very, very brutal in close combat, so it's been his best interest, Fish Prince Belair, to kill my Zangors before I even engage him in close combat. Also during the magic phase, I roll up to summon another Lord of Change using my Lord of Change's Skrakalikos, the Warden of Pathways. When that character rolls a d6, what ends up happening is, because he's got the Wellspring of Might, of Arcane Might on him, if I rolled a d6 when I roll a 1, which I did in this first turn, I get to re-roll it again. And so this time I rolled up into a 5, and so because his rule stated that whatever the highest d6 that is rolled, you have to match it, he gets 2 5s off. So that means I also get myself another Lord of Change put on the table. And I deploy him 18 inches into that cylinder, that Sylvaneth Wild right there. So there's my another Lord of Change as well. That's kind of procced in by that 2-headed dragon, that Gal Roush model. So that's going to be my other second Lord of Change. So that was pretty awesome. And at the same time, at this back right-hand corner of the table, I deploy 5 more Chaos Knights. I use my General's Unending Legions ability to summon up 5 more Chaos Knights, and those guys are located as well. They're armed with Chaos Glaives. They also got Marcus Tzeentch as well. My plan here is to have those guys charge the hill as quickly as possible, so that way they can engage that unit of bolt throwers and hopefully take them out in the first round of combat and not really have to worry about being shot at all by those repeater bolt throwers. And with the command phase out of the way for the hero phase, we moved directly to the movement phase. As you can see, I pretty much moved up my forces as quick as I possibly could. I did a lot of running for my troops. First of all, in my left-hand corner, I moved up 10 inches both the Shadow of Innistrad as well as my second sons. I had them move up towards to deal with those Illyrian Reavers, as well as those Silverhelm Knights where Lord Tyrion is kind of parked in it as well, so if I could take them on in that direction. And I also kind of moved up, I ran up my Chaos Warriors kind of gingerly forward onto the other side of the hill, using that hill as kind of like my bastion to kind of rally my forces. On the right hand side, I also moved up my Changelings up into that area as well, and also moved up Skrakalikos to the Warden of Pathways right behind them, so that way he can get some cover at the same time. He can position himself in such a way that he can lend support wherever he can. At the same time, I also move up my Chaos Knights that I summoned on the back end. I move up the top of that hill there to engage the bolt throwers. I also move my second summoned Lord of Change up, so that way he can start getting off some shots with his Rod of Sorcery into those Sea Guards. I have to really break his defenses really quick, because his army is very much a defensive army, and because he has a general, a High Elf Prince running a dragon, he gets to use his First Amongst Equals command ability, where all of his characters who have command abilities can use them. It can be very, very deadly if I don't take care of that guy real quick like. So that pretty much makes up the move phase for this one. And during the shooting phase, pretty much lackluster. I managed to kill off 4 members of the Silverhelms of the Dawn Patrol here on the right hand side. It was done by combined firing from using the Icon Bearers from my Zangors, as well as using the Rod of Sorcery from my newly summoned Lord of Change. So could have been a lot better, but at the same time, 4 dead elves is 4 less I got to worry about, so I'll take what I can get at this point. During the charging phase, I did a couple of gambles. First of all, I used 2 of my dice from my Destiny dice in order to make sure that my Chaos Knights of the Second Sons make their charge into the Illyrian Reavers. I burned up 2 5s, so as you can see there, I got both my 5s there, so that way they can make that charge distance. At the same time, I also used one of my Destiny dice, which was a 6, and I rolled a 5 for the other die from my Shadow of Innistrad to engage that unit of Silverhelm Knights. I really haven't got a chance to see what my Avinoleth Vortex Beast can do against cavalry, so that's why I kind of charged him in. Looking back, though, I probably should have done that, though, because Tyrion's also in that unit as well. As we all know, Tyrion is a beast at close combat, but at the same time, if you want to win, you got to risk stuff. So that makes up the charge phase on this left-hand side of the table. And at the same time, I also charged my newly summoned Lord of Change into this unit of Sea Guards. I mean, I know I'm not supposed to do that with Lords of Changes, but this guy was newly summoned, so it doesn't really cost me anything to lose him in close combat. So I put him right here on the right-hand side of the table, so that way he can engage those guys in close combat and try and take him out as well. I'm really interested to see exactly how well a Lord of Change can kind of stack up in close combat without any support. So that will make up the charge phase on the right-hand side here. And finally, here's a close-up of my newly summoned Chaos Knights charging into these bolt throwers, engaging them in the close combat as well. My plan here is hopefully to destroy these 2 units of bolt throwers and get it done with, so that way I don't have to worry about them shooting at my characters or at my monsters for the rest of the battle phase. So that makes the charge phase. With charge phase over, we go directly to the close combat phase. And already I'm starting to think that sitting my guys in on the right left-hand flank was not really a good idea, especially when it comes to my Mutilith Vortex Beast. My Chaos Knights of the Second Sons had no problem killing all those Illyrian Reavers. The Illyrian Reavers only managed to inflict one wound to one of my Chaos Knights. My Chaos Knights had no a problem destroying those guys and just getting rid of them off the table. However, I only managed to inflict one wound onto the unit of Silverhelm Knights, and the Silverhelms in turn managed to inflict 4 wounds onto my Mutilith Vortex Beast, and that was extremely demoralizing. So now I'm realizing that maybe charging in my monster this quickly was actually a bad idea. However, close combat right over here on the top of the hill between my Chaos Knights as well as the Bolt Throwers went extremely to plan. The Bolt Throwers were unable to inflict any wounds onto my Chaos Knights, and my Chaos Knights were able to slaughter the crew members of those Bolt Thrower crews. So because of that, those Bolt Throwers are now useless, and now my guys don't have to worry about being shot at by repeated Bolt Thrower fire. Meanwhile, close combat between my newly summoned Lord of Change as well as the unit of Seaguard did not go exactly as well as I thought it was going to go. I managed to kill like 2 of those guys, but out of all the attacks that this character has, you would think he inflict definitely more than just 2 wounds onto a unit of basic infantry. However, those Seaguards managed to inflict 3 wounds onto my newly summoned Lord of Change as well. Now, it doesn't really bother me that he's got 3 wounds because I newly summoned him up, and so if he dies, no biggie. It doesn't really cost me anything to lose him. But at the same time, though, he's a Lord of Change, and if you were actually buying the Games Workshop models for these things are close to $200, and so you would think they'd actually do a little bit more than that. Whatever the case may be, that's exactly what happened. So with that being said, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the High Elves, and this photo is taken directly after the hero phase. So first off, the standard bearer there, he managed to use his command ability because the Dragon Lord has the first amongst equals command ability on the Compendium Scrolls, which means that he can then activate 3 other heroes within the army. If they have command abilities, they could also use them as well. So in this case, he activates his battle standard bearer. That guy activates the command ability that basically gives reroll to hits with the Seaguard that he's located right in front of him, which is actually pretty devastating if you think about it, because these guys have long range fire, so if he's shooting at me during the shooting phase and makes any kind of mistakes or makes any misses, he gets to re-roll those as well as those in close combat. So very, very deadly combination to throw him some Lothern Seaguards. And also onto this unit of Seaguard over here on the right hand side, Teclis starts casting some of his spells with his magic. He managed to get Mystic Shield off into these Seaguards. Now they have +1 to their armor save, which will make it much more difficult for my Lord of Change to kill these guys, because my Lord of Change right now is kind of failing me in the whole close combat department. And to make matters worse for me, he also casts Arcane Bolt off onto my Lord of Change as well, and manages to get the maximum number of wounds allowable onto mortal wounds. So now my Lord of Change is now carrying 6 wounds, which basically means his combat ability is now being halved, so now it's going to be even worse in close combat. He does try to cast his Tempest spell, but unfortunately for my buddy Fresh Prince Belair, he managed to roll 2 1s on that spell, so even with his 3-up casting ability, he wasn't able to get the Tempest spell off, so that was kind of sad for him. But that pretty much makes up the hero phase on this part. During the movement phase, not much movement really takes place for Fresh Prince Belair's army. The very first thing he does, he takes Teclis as well as Tanis Laenel, the Dawn Patrol, which is Battle Center Bear there in the back, and he kind of shifts them over 5 inches apiece, so that way they're right directly behind this unit of Lothern Seaguards, so that way they don't get ambushed and attack on their own, which kind of makes sense because I am starting to swoop in on the flanks, and he wants to protect his characters as much as he possibly can. So that makes a move for this side of the table. However, on the left-hand side, he does take his Dragon Lord and actually flies him over that forest into that little clearing right there behind the hill, as well as the forest in the back end of the board, puts him in directly line of sight into my unit of Chaos Knights for my Second Sons, which is actually bad for me because that guy is riding a dragon, so that thing can put out some major mortal wounds if it drags rather than fire as well. And if he also charges me to the charging phase, the close combat, I think, could actually just cause a lot of damage for my guys. A lot of hurt that I'm not really looking forward to. At the same time, he also kind of scoots his troops of his Silverhelm Knights as well as Tyrion to get better access towards my Shadow over Innistrad. So now that Mutilith Vortex Beast is facing down the full brunt of the High Elf Cavalry. So that makes a move phase on this side of the table. During the shooting phase, I got extremely lucky when the Dragon Breed Dragonfire only managed to cause 1 mortal wound, so he finally took off my, sorry, not 1 mortal wound, 2 mortal wounds, which managed to kill off the very last of my Chaos Knights who was carrying an extra wound on him, so I got pretty lucky on that one because it could have easily been D6 mortal wounds, and that would have been terrifying. However, Tyrion's sword, Sungfang, has a really beast shooting phase as well, so he unloads and manages to kill off the remaining wounds onto my Mutilith Vortex Beast. So because of that, the Shadow of Innistrad dies a horrifying death, being burnt alive by the flaming power of the phoenix of that blade. So that was actually kind of devastating. I forgot how powerful Tyrion really is in close combat as well as in shooting phase. So that pretty much makes the shooting phase on the left-hand side of the table. And luckily for me, when the Dawn Patrol opened up with their longbows onto my unit of Stormlords, I only managed to lose 2 of my guys at the process of doing so. Don't get me wrong, my buddy Fresh Prince Belair was rolling out of the box for shooting. He rolled a lot of misses, however, because he had that command ability, which allowed that unit to reroll misses, they got to fire again. So he fired a lot of shots. It's just I was making my armor saves like it was nobody's business. He did manage to inflict 4 wounds onto this unit, but luckily for me, though, each of my Chaos Warriors carried 2 wounds apiece, so it wasn't as devastating as it could have been. So I got really lucky on that part as well. Not to mention this unit also has Inspiring Presence on it, so I won't worry about taking break tests at the end of the phase. However, in the shooting phase on the right hand side here, all those Lothern Seaguard took aim with their bows and opened up onto my newly summoned Lord of Change, and they had no problem whatsoever just atomizing him off the table. Fresh Prince Belair rolled like a champ on this side of the table. Almost every single one of his guys hit, every single one of his guys wounded, and I just could not roll an armor save for my guy if my life depended on it. And so because of that, my Lord of Change died. However, as sad it is that a Lord of Change did die for my army, I can't really be too upset because I did summon him up, so it doesn't really cost me any points, so c'est la vie. So with that shooting phase over, you go directly to the charge phase. And in the charging phase, the worst thing actually happens. That dragon charged directly into my second sons and engaged those guys into close combat as well. I forgot how much damage these things could put out when you put them in close combat, so I'm actually kind of terrified to see exactly what the fallout from that combat will be. Oddly enough, my buddy did not commit Tyrion or his Silver Knights into the flank of the second sons. I think the reason why I did that is so that way he can keep these guys in reserve and then have them move into a location to engage me in close combat whenever the opportunity arises. So that makes up the charging phase on this side of the table. And as you see in this photo, that dragon, as well as the dragon prince on top, had no problem whatsoever just curb stomping my Chaos Knights. It was absolutely awe-inspiring to see the amount of destruction that thing was able to pull off onto my Chaos Knights. And now my Chaos Knights are dead to a man, and now I have nothing protecting my left-hand flank for my infantry units, which is going to be absolutely terrifying if I don't get the initiative on the next turn. Which luckily for me, I'm able to do. So we go to the top of turn number 2. As you can see, I won the initiative on this part, so because of that, I get to go first, which is really, really important for me because a lot of my newly summoned units that I brought up have just been killed off, so now I need to start making up some game plans real quick to protect my flanks because my flanks are slowly being collapsed. So first off, I do use my command ability. I do use my Crown of Command to get Crown of Conquest rather to give my unit of Stormlords another Inspiring Presence. That I would worry about taking any break tests as well. I do try to use my Undying Legions ability to summon up more units onto the table, but unfortunately for me though, I failed my roll, so no more guys come up on the table, so that part was kind of sad. So with command abilities over, we go directly to the magic phase, which I had a very, very successful one. First of all, my magic casts Bolt of Change off onto this unit of Lothern Seaguard. Managed to kill 2 of those guys as well, causing 2 mortal wounds. As per the spell requirements, for every kill I make with mortal wounds, I roll a d6. On a 4-up, I summon up a new Chaos Spawn, in which case I got 2 Chaos Spawns that deployed 3 inches away from that unit of Lothern Seaguard. And you could probably guess that the next turn I'm going to charge those guys in there and start having my spawn shoot down on some tender elf flesh. So that's going over here on the magic phase on the left-hand side of the table. And because I fight on behalf of Lord Tzeentch, my magic doesn't quit. I do manage to get off Boon of Mutation off with my Zangor Shaman. Managed to kill 2 members of the Lothern Seaguard here on the right hand side, and just as that rule stipulates, for every kill I make with that spell, I get a newly summoned Zangor. So as you can see there, I got 2 Zangor populating the map right there, about 3 inches away from those Lothern Seaguard. And just like with my Chaos Spawn, my plan is to have those guys charge in during the charging phase and start engaging in close combat as well. So that's the magic phase on this side of the table. And then when it comes to my Lord of Change, I decided to cast another summon the Lord of Change spell. I originally rolled a 8, I believe is what it was. I rolled a 6 and then a 2, but because this guy also has the special rule where you have to match the highest die rolled, I rolled 2 6s, and since it's Age of Sigmar, I don't have to worry about recasting. I matched this up another Lord of Change. And there he is. There's my Galrosh again. I possibly put him 18 inches away from Squakalikos as well. So now that guy is back with a vengeance, being literally summoned back from the warp in order to put the smack down onto some high elves. So that's where he's located at on this side of the table. So that pretty much wraps up the hero phase. With hero phase over, we go directly to the movement phase. Alright, and as you can see during the movement phase, I just start having my forces start moving forward as possible in order to gauge these high elves and to finish them off. As you can see, the first thing I already do as I move my infantry units around the other side of the hill, I have my changelings that take up the right hand side in order to deal with whatever forces might remain after the combat phase on the right hand side. And on the left hand side, I also move up my Stormlords in order to kind of protect their flank there with the forest there. That almond colored forest is actually Sylvaneth Wildwood, so if anything charges through there that's not a monster, they'll have to take some dangerous terrain tests. So that's where I kind of located them as well. At the same time, also my Chaos Spawn, as you can see there, I have them start moving towards Tyrion as well as those Silverhelm Knights, so that way I can bog those guys down with some spawn and hopefully take out some of those guys at the same time. And as you can see, I also move up my newly summoned Galroush, which is his my newly summoned up Lord of Change. I move up to start taking on that whole unit of Seaguard and take them on in close combat at the same time. And as you can see there, I also put down my Chaos Knights from the top of the hill, have them move down the hill in order to gauge the remainder of the Sea Homes on the right hand side, and I also move up my Lord of Change, Holocaust, onto the top of the hill so that we can lay down some long range fire with his Rod of Sorcery. And that pretty much makes the move phase on this one. During the shooting phase, I take both Galrosh as well as Holocaust, the Warden of Pathways, and them both take the Rods of Sorcery, open up on tech list, and manage to blow that guy away off the table. So now my opponent's magic phase is completely gone because I killed the one main cast that he actually had. So that was very, very important for me, so that way I have to worry about him trying to dispel my rolls during my next magic phase, which is kind of important because now I'm in range for him to start dispelling, unbinding my spells left and right. So that makes it the shooting phase on this side of the table. In the charge phase, I quickly send in my 2 Chaos Spawn to take on Tyrion, and I don't know how well my spawn will do against this unit of Silverhelm Knights, especially since Tyrion's that unit as well, but you know, I figure they're newly summoned, so it doesn't really bother me if I lose them in close combat, so I charge these guys into the combat in order to take on the Zenith Cavalry and hopefully bog them down for a turn. And at the same time, I decided to take a risk. I decided to charge in and try to finish off this unit of Seaguard as quickly as possible. First thing I do is I charge in my Stormlords. I burned up one of my Destiny Dicers of 4 in order to make sure they make that 10-inch movement when I moved them in. So because of that, those guys now charge directly into the Seaguard. They're now directly engaged in close combat. At the same time, I send Galroush to have him charge directly into the back of that Battle Standard bearing carrying Sea Helm, so that way I can take him on, hopefully take him out of the action as well. And I also move up Holocaust, the Warden of Pathways, to attack the right hand flank of that unit of Seaguard as well, and try to deal with those guys and just kind of finish off my opponent once and for all. And over here on the right hand side, I charge in my 2 Zangor that I summoned during the magic phase, as well as my Chaos Knights, and get this unit of Seaguard into a pincer attack, and hopefully just start taking these guys throughout attrition. So that pretty much makes up the charge phase. With charge phase over, we go directly to the combat phase. And the combat phase, I actually got kind of lucky on this one because I forgot how powerful Tyrion was. Tyrion was able to kill, I think, between the attacks between Tyrion as well as those Silverhelm Knights, they managed to kill my 1 Chaos Spawn. I got 1 Chaos Spawn left over, and he's kind of engaging these Silverhelms and trying to take them on in close combat as well. I got kind of lucked out because Tyrion only managed to get 1 of his attacks off and managed to cause 3 wounds in the process of doing that. So, and the other Silverhelms kind of finished him off as well, which is kind of rough. So that makes a combat between these 2 units. And close combat between these Seaguards and my monsters and my Warriors of Chaos was actually very, very brutal. They did manage to kill, I think, I've managed to inflict 8 wounds onto my Stormlords, managed to kill 4 of my guys. So that was kind of a good kind of fight back for that part. However, I did atomize the Zenith in terms of close combat attacks. These guys are now down to like 6 guys left. I did manage to kill that Battle Center Bear in the background there with the Phoenix banner. I managed to do a really good job just taking him out. Galrosh actually redeemed himself in close combat. I also caused some impressive hits on that part. However, Holocaust, when it came to his attacks, wasn't so great as I thought he'd be. But then again, you know, a couple attacks and a couple dead elves is better than none at this point. So this photo is taken directly after the bravery, the battle shock test as well. So that's all the lines left over for this battle. And at the same time, combat between these Seaguard as well as my Chaos Knight will go another round. I managed to cut this unit in half, which is actually pretty good for me. I also managed to keep all my Chaos Knights. However, I did lose my Zangar, which is kind of sad, but then again, those guys nearly summoned from a spell, so I really can't complain either. So that pretty much makes a combat for this round, as well as the battle shock tests. And with that being said, that takes us directly to the top of turn number 2. This photo is taken after the move phase as well as the command phase. Because he's kind of out of range for using his abilities, the only real ability that really kicks off is that Tyrion uses his Defender of Ulthuan ability due to First Amongst Equals, so now all of the members of this army can use his bravery instead of their own unit's bravery, so that was kind of nice. But at the same time, though, for the move phase, I realized I made a huge error in my tactical planning when I did this. I sent my Stormlords charging in to deal with those Seaguards, but I accidentally left my characters behind, and for whatever reason, I didn't think about it. I didn't think that anything could reach them, but I forgot that my opponent had a freaking huge dragon on the left-hand side. So you can see he kind of flew over that Silith Wildwood and landed right smack dab looking at my general. He's going to probably pop him with a fireball here in a second. At the same time, he also disengages Tyrion, has him move into the unit of Stormlords, and have him start doing some brutalization there in close combat as well. So that's pretty bad news for me. Everything else in his army is pretty much engaged in close combat, so they can't really move really, and so that makes the move phase for turn 2 for the High Elves. So during the shooting phase, my opponent opens up with his dragon onto my general Outgold Hellbrass, the champion Tzeentch. Managed to roll a perfect 6 on the amount of damage this guy causes 6 mortal wounds onto my general, and just kind of atomize him right in front of my eyes. So that was actually pretty devastating because that was some really poor planning on my part and just some tomfoolery. I just got over eager and I jumped the gun, sending my Stormlords in as quick as I did. I forgot to take my characters with them, so now I gotta do some really quick maneuvering here if I want to save these guys here in a little bit. At the same time, Tyrion does some really brutalized shooting with his Sunfang, managed to kill a couple of my Chaos warriors at the same time of doing that as well, so that was absolutely brutal. So that makes him shooting phase on this side of the table. In the charging phase, he sends in his general, Lord Tywin Lanel, and Pyrite just charges directly into my Magister, so that guy's now engaged in close combat because I'm a colossal idiot who made a huge mistake and made a major tactical error when I sent my troops charging away, so I kind of deserve the pain that's coming my way. And in case you didn't guess it, Lord Tyrion also charges directly into the left-hand flank on my Stormlords, getting those guys engaged in close combat as well. So that pretty much makes it the charge phase for Fresh Prince Bel-Air. So with charges over, we go directly to the close combat phase. And the close combat phase, my Magister gets eaten alive by the dragon. I don't even think his Lord even had to attack. I think we just did with just Dragon's fearsome jaws, I think is all we ended up using for that one. So yeah, he gobbled up that Magister and ate him alive like it was nobody's business. And that's because I made a huge colossal mistake in my tactical planning, and I kind of deserve the pain that I'm getting now. And oh my god, close combat over here in the center part of the table is absolutely brutal. First of all, my Chaos Spawn and as well as the Silverhelm Knights managed to fight it out. I managed to kill 2 members of the Silverhelm Knights before dying, so now my Chaos Spawn is now out of commission. However, Tyrion managed to kill I think like 5 or 6 of my Chaos Warriors just by himself. So managed to chop that unit down to about a third of its size, and that was absolutely devastating. However, I did manage to kill off the rest of those Sea Guards, so that part's kind of nice. So the nice thing is that yes, while my Chaos Warriors are kind of down and out, I do have 2 Lords of Changes that can probably gang up and try to fight Tyrion one-on-one. However, he does have the Heart of Avalorn, so if he does manage to pass that test, he'll come back again, but that means I'll just have to use some hardcore magic and then do some close combat. I can finish him off that way. That's also assuming I don't bring up another Lord of Change during my magic phase as well. So very, very brutal combat phase here. I only got like a couple of guys left over after that fight. And finally, I was able to manage to kill off the rest of these Sea Guards here on the right-hand side. I also managed to lose a Chaos Knight for my trouble, but you know, these guys are also newly summoned, so not much loss going on over there on that side of the table as well. So with close combat over, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and we roll off for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so that takes the top of turn number 3 for the Tzeentch Arcanites. Managed to secure the initiative on that part. As you can see right there, I also managed to roll into the 10, this time with a 5. I think I rolled like a 9 originally. I think it was a 5 and a 4, but then because I get the roll up again up to the 5 because of the highest die, I do manage to sum up another Lord of Change onto the table. And I brought Ingrid Van Horseman, my little model that I used. I used the Seth MacFarlane Dragon models that's located right there as well. So now I have 3 bamfing looking Lords of Change onto the table, and so now I'm going to be able to use these guys to kind of cause some mass havoc as well as some pain here in a little bit. So that's the very first step of my command phase, using some of my magical spells. Alright, so after Galrush managed to summon up Ingrid Van Horseman, I then cast off Tzeentch's Firestorm off onto that general that's riding the dragon at the same time. Managed to cause a huge amount of mortal wounds onto that guy as well, and managed to plink out the final one that was really recorded to kill him. Oh wait, sorry, not Tzeentch's Firestorm, sorry. I used Infernal Gateway, I think is what I used. I forgot which one it was. It was either Tzeentch's Firestorm or Infernal Gateway, I forgot which spell it was, but it's absolutely devastating. Managed to kill that general and managed to put him down and put him out for the count for that one, so that was absolutely amazing on that part. For the rest of the hero phase, I then take Skrakalikos. I forgot if I cast Eternal Gateway or Tzeentch's Firestorm. I do know I do use both those spells during this turn. I forgot which one I used for which general, but anyways, I did cast one of those 2 spells onto Tyrion, managed to kill him in the process of doing that. Of course, Fresh Prince Bel-Air also gets to use the Talisman of Avalorn, which means that if Tyrion should die, he rolls a d6. If he gets a 2 up, Tyrion comes back and he's fully healed again, which does come back, so he pops up again, and then I cast Arcane Bolt, I believe, with Skrakalikos as well. Managed to put 3 mortal wounds onto him as well, so that part was actually kind of nice. So we kind of dropped him down to size on that part. So with hero phase over, we go directly to the movement phase. One of the things I do is I try to shuffle a little bit of my guys away from my Chaos Warriors, away from Tyrion, so that way he's not engaged in close combat away, so that way I can get disengaged from him and not worry about being killed anymore. At the same time, move up the rest of my army to kind of face down Tyrion and what's left over. But as you can see in this photo, the first thing I do is I kind of get Tyrion completely surrounded by all 3 of my Lords of Changes, because my plan is to have during the next shooting phase is have all 3 of these guys open up their Rods of Sorcery onto Tyrion and hopefully just kind of atomize him off the table. which I managed to do during the shooting phase. All 3 of my Lords of Changes opened with the Rods of Sorcery and managed to blow him away off the table and managed to put that guy into the dirt. So that part was absolutely amazing because Tyrion's a beast in close combat and that guy needed to die. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That takes directly to the end of the game. The only thing that my buddy has left is 1 Silverhelm champion, and my buddy Fresh Prince Bel-Air kind of calls the game at that point. So once again, as you can see, pretty much one-sided victory for me. Most of my units are pretty much still on the table left over. So yeah, for all in all, very, very successful round of close combat for me. Once again, the thing that's saving the most in this battle was, of course, summoning. Of course, a lot of you guys would be like, "Oh, you're not using so many points," but like I keep on saying in every one of my Age of Sigmar videos, we don't care about those points, so we don't use them at all. And also the ability to bring up units from my Legion of Unending Legion units also kind of helped out as well. So that pretty much is going to wrap it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Your guys' input is always invaluable as always. And also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as Google Plus for all the latest and greatest on our hobby. That'll do it for this one, you guys. We will catch you guys on the flip side. You guys stay classy.